Good evening. Welcome to Man to Man. I'm Pastor Vernon Shazier, your host, and my co-host is right here with me. I'm Batman, and he's Robin, Brother George Knox, who joins me most months as we engage in dialogue, uncut, unchased conversations about issues that impact us as men. If you are tuning in to Man for the first time, it is a show in which we have conversations similar to barbershop talk or under the tree talk, but our goal is to engage in conversations that will lead us to becoming better men, better husbands, better fathers, just better individuals, and deal with some of the issues that we face on a daily basis as men. Joy, you say hello to our audience.
Good evening, everybody, and it looks like we're going to have a special treat this evening. Pastor has shared some topics, and I just hope that you fasten your seatbelt and enjoy the journey.
Well, again, um, those who are watching by way of virtual, if you don't mind, if you would share this conversation with your Facebook family, if you're viewing my Facebook, we think what we're going to talk about tonight will be of value to a great deal of people. So tonight we have several topics we're going to touch on, and I think they all will give us some insight and help us to be better at the end of the conversation. So we're going to talk about the pain of living with alopecia. Um, was Will wrong for slapping Chris? And we're going to talk about the search for the magic wand. And so those are the topics we're going to touch on tonight. And again, I am always candid, transparent, and I hope you will find value in this show. Again, if you're viewing by way of Facebook, if you don't mind, share this conversation that we are getting ready to have tonight. So let's begin with the first topic, the pain of living with alopecia. This really connects to the second topic. The question was, will wrong for slapping Chris? I think everybody is aware of that dramatic event that took place um, a few days ago. I thought it would be helpful to have a conversation about alopecia because for me, it immediately resonated with me. It immediately gripped me in a very deep, penetrating, and personal way because my oldest son has alopecia. And again, at the center of what caused um, Will to engage Chris the way he did was the fact that Jada is dealing with alopecia, and it is a painful, and it can be something that you struggle and wrestle with. Our son hair started falling out when he was a little child. He was a boy. And I can tell you that it was moments, I can't even count how many of them, where my wife and I were at basketball games, football games, events, and people in the stands, people in the audience, particularly most of the time it occurs at football events when he would take his helmet off. They would say all type of cruel things. Ooh, look at that boy with all those patches in his head. And, some people gave him the nickname Patches. And they're sitting next to you. They're sitting in front of you, behind you, to your right and your left. They're not aware that we are his parents. And my wife's temperature is rising way above 100. and we have to sit there and take it and not say anything. And so you have the pain of listening to and hearing people say cruel and what feels corrosive to you, and then you have your child who has to deal with it. And it's easy for us to give them those little rhymes that our parents and our grade school teachers gave us. George and I was talking about it earlier. You know, we would have little scuffles about something someone said, especially if they said something or talked about your mama, and you know your teacher would give you that little rhyme, and sticks and stones may break your bones, but words would never hurt. Well, that's a lie. Words do hurt. We all know that words hurt. And our son had to deal with that as a child, and he had to deal with the alopecia aspect of it. He had to deal with the treatment. We put him in a treatment where they would give injections with needles into his skull, which was painful, in an attempt to cause his hair to start growing back after doing that for a while and seeing how painful it was for him, and it was not giving us the results that we desired. We just stopped it and just allowed the hair to just fall out. And so you have the pain that you're carrying, knowing your child is dealing with that pain, and then you have the pain that you endure listening to the comments of others. And so that topic about alopecia, when I heard that she had alopecia, again, on a personal level, I could relate to the pain of hearing someone say something that may be commenting for them, but it's cutting you to your core. Yet, I don't give Will a pass. I can't give Will a pass for that. Like I say, there is, if I could count how many times somebody said something negative, made a joke about Ryan having alopecia, all the names they gave him, cue ball, patches. I mean, you sitting there listening to all of that, and you're boiling on the inside, and you're wondering how is your child dealing with that, and you ask him, you know, how you doing, and he said, I'm all right, I'm fine, but you know, really, he wasn't fine. You got any thoughts, George? You want to jump in?
As we talked about it earlier, the incident itself has opened up all kinds of conversations that get deeper and deeper and deeper as it relates, as our main topic relates to the relationship between men and women, the relationship between spouses. Because in all of the situations, even the situations that you described, Pastor, I would say that there could have been a part of you that was wondering how your wife was reacting to your making a decision that is in everybody's interest to just absorb it. Mm-hmm. A lot of the tension comes about as a result of, am I being a protector of my family? That's one of the things that Will Smith said later, for example. And oftentimes, it's an almost natural thing to make sure that your behavior doesn't diminish you in the eyes of your spouse or your loved one or others by virtue of a decision not to react violently or inappropriately when somebody you love is being insulted. And I think that's a nice conversation to have in terms of where the line may be.
Yeah, like I said, I can relate to probably that situation even on a deeper level than Will, because again, it's one thing for you to develop alopecia as an adult. It's another thing to have to deal with it as a child. And then I think that, and again, if you're not familiar with alopecia, you can Google it, look it up, do some research. But basically, your hair starts falling out. Some people get it as in their childhood years. Some people get it in their teenager years. Some get it in their adult years. I don't know how long Jada has been dealing with it, but I think it's obvious that she probably started dealing with this in her adult years. But the other side that I gave thought to was it must be a greater challenge to deal with as a female than as a male. Now, the words hurt, people's jokes hurt the same, but we all know women put a much greater and higher value on hair than men do. I remember one evening my wife and I was going to dinner, and as soon as we arrived at the restaurant, parked the car, the sky opens up. It starts raining. My wife looked out at the window. She had gotten her hair done that morning, and for her, that rain was like the devil. For a woman, water is the enemy to their hair. That's why you see a lot of women are reluctant to engage in certain activities like swimming or, anything that could possibly mess up their hair. My wife and I, we've been together with, 30 years or more, and just last year, I've got her to start playing golf because it's too hot out there. I'm not messing my hair up. I'm not sweating my hair up. And so I thought about it from that perspective too, that it has to be something that a woman, a female, wrestles with and struggles with more than a male, because eventually, a man can just say, I'll shave it all off and go bald head. And basically that's what happened to our son. Eventually all of his hair fell out, and people thought he was just sporting a bald head. But it is a painful experience to witness and listen to people make corrosive comments and jokes, and we experienced it in person at events. We experienced it on social media. People would, hide behind their computers, their technology, and make jokes about him not having hair, make jokes about him not having any eyebrows, and you look at this and you wish you could just find them and put your hands on them. You think about it, and so what do we learn from this? What is a takeaway? I think Chris was honest when he said he was not aware that Jada had alopecia, but I think we need to give some thought how easily it appears to be for us sometimes to take other people's challenges, mess ups, mistakes, and turn it into comedy. We seem to live in a society where someone can mess up and it become public news at 12 o'clock, at 12:05, or no later 12:10. You have all type of memes that are being posted on social media, and their life event, whether they messed up, whether they had a failure, whether they made a bad decision, it's been turned into comedy, and it's fun, except when it's you. And the reality is that the majority of society does not live their life on a national stage, live their life where cameras are always snapping and there's a video camera always rolling. But we seem to do it so easily. I don't think we give enough thought to it, that it may be them today, but it can be you tomorrow that make a bad decision, get a bad doctorate report in a position that's unfavorable, and you wouldn't want anyone to make comedy out of it, but that seems to be something that society does and engage in so easily. And so if that's you, if you're one of those people who immediately or shortly after you hear about somebody's mistake or mess up, you like to go on social media and make comedy out of it, I would suggest that you pause and give some thought to what if it was you. Because the truth is, all of us have made some bad choices. All of us have done some things that we would deem as dumb, stupid, and we were scratching our head and wondering, what was I thinking about when I did that, when I said that? There's a large population of society who hides behind technology and pumps out cruelty every day via technology, social media. Just hope you think about that and give more consideration before you may not be the one who is the author or originator of it, but you take it and you share it and pass it on and repost it. But what if your life was lived under a camera? What if your family life was lived under a microscope and then broadcast? That's my takeaway, and those are some of my thoughts on it. Again, I'll emphasize this here. I know the pain. My family knows the pain of having a loved one who is dealing with alopecia. We know the pain of hearing and listening to negative, unkind, cruel comments. Yet, thank God, neither my wife nor myself never slapped anyone. So, George, you got some final remarks on that topic.
I'll just say that, again, I think that the incident and the way that each of the parties behaved is worthy of some deep reflection on our part in connection with where the line is. At what point do you slap or do something that is dramatic in order to make a statement about the effect of somebody insulting or otherwise causing harm to somebody that you love. The debate was not necessarily about whether Will Smith should have done something after it became clear to him that his wife was hurt by remarks made by somebody else. But the debate is about how you react. And what I'm saying is, not only that, we have to concern ourselves with what are the consequences or the outcomes of whatever you do when you decide it's necessary and appropriate to do something. And I'll give you a quick story about how hard it is to live with sometimes a bad decision not to do something, no matter what the risk is. Because I think that part of it becomes the thing that lingers. When I was in college, my mother and my stepfather had a place at the beach where the family would go in Jacksonville for the weekend. And in order to get there, you had to pass into Nassau County. Nassau County is where American Beach is, and that was the Black Beach. And Nassau County was presided over by Sheriff Youngblood. And Sheriff Youngblood was notorious for his disrespect for black people and for his brutality. And on Sunday afternoon, when all of the blacks were passing into his county, he would drive around and find somebody to have fun with. And so he pulled my mother and my stepfather over. I was sitting in the back seat of the car, stopped the car. Boy, did you know you were speeding? Stepfather said, well, sir, I don't think I was speeding. As a matter of fact, I was keeping up with the rest of the traffic. And you could have stopped that person in front of me. Sheriff unsnapped his holster and put his hand on his weapon. He said, boy, don't you never talk back to me. I said you were speeding. And by this time, my mother, being a wife who's going to protect her husband, started to mouth off at the sheriff. And the sheriff turned to my stepfather and said, forgive me, you tell that B word to shut up. So stepfather turned to my mother and said, honey, that's okay, I got it. That ain't what I said to you, boy. I told you to tell that B word to shut up. Stepfather turned to my mother, cop got his hand on his gun and said, shut up. Sheriff Youngblood said, watch your speed, have a good day. Now, I felt my mother begging the Lord in heaven not to have me do or say nothing, not even to look at it, not even to tempt the sheriff to mess with me and to have me say anything to the sheriff. But what I started to think about later is, did it affect the relationship between my mother and my stepfather to see him humiliated like that? Did it affect her that, no, I'd have had to get shot if somebody had said that, something like that about you, honey. And so what I'm talking about now is how you live with the choice that you make, not only the consequences externally, but how you feel about yourself. And how does that affect your relationship going forward? And what was my stepfather thinking about for the rest of that weekend? And could he even face my mother after that kind of humiliation? And did she think he had a larger responsibility to protect her after this man had defamed her in that way?
And that's part of the tension. Part of the tension is you're sitting there listening to someone devalue, insult, berate your loved one, your spouse, your son, your child, whatever, whoever it is. And when you are dealing with a male and a female, a husband or wife, there is this felt need that and belief that you are supposed to be her provider, her protector, her Superman, yet doing or saying the wrong thing can have some dire consequences. And this is what we see when we look at this whole drama with Chris, Jada, and Will. And again, I've sat in that seat where I wanted to say something, but I didn't say anything because I believed that if I said something, my saying something would cause them to say something, and then the conversation would transition from a conversation to some bodies moving. And I had too much to lose and understood that there were consequences. And so on all of those occasions, my wife and I, whether we were sitting or standing at an event, we bared it, and we didn't say anything, and we pressed on. That is easier said than done. There is that tension, and that is what I hope you would use as a teachable moment, particularly if you have children. See, one of the things that makes mistakes valuable is that we can learn from them. We can find value in them because we can take those moments and learn how to handle life and that situation or any other similar situation more intelligently as we move forward. A true story. Albert Einstein gave out final exam. He passed out final exams to his students. After he finished passing out the final exams, one of the students, a female student, came up and approached Albert Einstein and said, "Sir, I don't want to offend you, but you gave us the same exam that we had last semester." He said, let me see it, and she gave it to him. He took it from her, looked at it, handed it back to her. He said, "Young lady, you're correct. That is the same exam you took last semester. I gave it to you again because I'm hoping this time your answers are better." What's the lesson? What's the point of that story? There are very few tests that we see only once. Very few temptations that we encounter only once. And so often when we make mistakes or we have experiences that are painful, we just want to rush on and get away from them as far as we can, and we neglect to reflect about them and give them thought and ask yourself, what did I learn from that? How can I handle this situation, this test, this temptation more intelligently, better, wiser, if I encounter it again? I think if we engaged in some reflection and asked ourselves that question when we've made wrong decisions or done things that was not favorable for us, that simple question, how can I handle this more intelligently the next time, because there are very few tests that you only see once. And the sad thing is, many people are given the same test multiple times. They marked B the last time, and B was the wrong answer. And they keep marking B, and they keep getting the wrong answer, and they keep flunking the test. Will and Jada and Chris will have more tests in life. My hope and prayer is that they will handle them more intelligently. And it is that same hope and prayer for you, that we use this as a teachable moment, that you have a conversation, a dialogue with your children, and let them see and understand this shouldn't just be looked upon as a moment of comedy. No. It was a moment that was embarrassing, hurtful. It was a moment that robbed a lot of people of a precious moment, a priceless moment. A lot of people made sacrifices that they've made over years to make it to that event, to make it to that moment. And that moment was robbed from them because, in my opinion, some people failed the test. All right, let's take that, because I think we can use that tension that we says exists between and within a man to be what he thinks he should be for his wife, for his significant other, and deal with our other topic we want to talk about, and that is the search for the magic wand. Again, if you are tuning in for the first time, we've been looking through this book that is transformative. If you are a male, I recommend you get this book. It's called Men's Secret Wars by Patrick Means, Men's Secret Wars. And so in this month's episode, we want to talk about the search for the magic wand. Let me read what Means says in the beginning and opening of this chapter. At the heart of the problem of men with wounded masculinity is our society's bizarre attempt to raise sons without fathers. So our boy marches forth to find a female whose magic wand would turn him into a man. I'm going to read that again. I think it's worth reading again. At the heart of the problem of men with wounded masculinity is our society's bizarre attempt to raise sons without fathers. So our boy marches forth to find a female whose magic wand will turn him into a man. We live in a society today in which boys are over mothered and under fathered. Say it again. We live in a society where our boys, our males, are over mothered and under fathered. We have a predicament that is so dire, so severe, and so sad, where we have a high percentage of homes, a high percentage of males who are being raised primarily by females, primarily by their mother. And all they get is that feminine perspective, all they're around, all they experience is a woman's, the mother's femininity. And their life is void of a father, a void of a model of masculinity. And so a woman does all she can. And what means is suggesting is that she does all she can, and many mothers are doing all they can to try to be a man and try to be a father. But as much as they try to work their magic wand, a woman is limited and only can go so far in helping a boy become a man. And many mothers have done and are doing a champion job, the best they can at raising their boys. But we have a crisis, and it's a serious crisis. And it is most males, I'm going to say it again, are over-mothered and under-fathered. And so what Means talks about here is that male, that boy, he grows up with this desire, this need that he needs affirmation from a woman. He needs affirmation from a female. And he lives that type of life, and he deals with that emotionally and psychologically because he's been over-mothered and under-fathered, and he has not had anyone to help him develop his masculinity and transition from being a boy to being a man, that he seeks and he longs for affirmation. And there's a book called His Needs, Her Needs. And in that book, it talks about some of a man's top needs. And in it, it says that a man's top needs, a man has a lot of needs, but it says some of the top needs, primary needs that a man needs is sex, affirmation, and trust. Those are the three top needs that is listed in that book, His Need, Her Needs. Affirmation. And even though, George, as men, we put on this front and act like we're so tough and we're hard, and you know what we've talked about, put on our capes. Most men, because throughout their whole life they've been over-mothered and under-fathered, there is a need that they feel they have to have, and that is affirmation from a woman. I need that woman to affirm me. I need that woman to say that I'm a man, for me to feel that I'm a man, because I haven't had a man to teach me that I'm a man. I haven't had a man to give me affirmation. All I've been around is women. And when a man does not get that from a woman, he feels that he's often less than a man. That's why you see men do crazy and sometimes foolish things, behave in crazy and foolish ways in front of women, around women. I remember some years ago, I started opening the gym at the YMCA on Sunday evenings for men to play basketball. And it was just for a way for us to get men together and fellowship and build relationships and hopefully help someone to end up in a relationship with Jesus Christ. But something strange happened, George. Some of the guys started bringing their girlfriends and their wives to the gym, and the whole atmosphere changed. Guys start fouling harder than they ever fouled before. Guys start playing basketball harder than it's like this game of friendly basketball that we've was playing every week turned into a gladiator sport. Why? Because those women was in the stands, and now I've got to show them that I'm a man, because many men live with this feeling, I need a woman to give me affirmation that I'm a man, because they've been overmothered and underfathered. I know you got something to say about this, George. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I saw that the chats and comments were lighting up on our other conversation. You might want to see if there might be something we can revisit. But I wanted to call attention to a couple of words as it relates to the point of men being underfathered and overmothered. And the word I wanted to pay attention to is the absent father. Because the first time I read this, I got a little disturbed with Brother Means, because I felt like he was pushing on to us this family value system where father and mother also means husband and wife. And I said, well, this doesn't relate to the statistics which show that an overwhelming majority of black families do not include the father. And so, you're talking about motherhood and apple pie and a beautiful family but the words themselves gave me a different understanding of how I can make that statement relevant. And that is, it didn't say an absent husband for the mother. It said an absent father. So whether you married or not, the important thing is there a relationship between father and son, whether he lives in the house or not, whether the parents are married or not? Is there a relationship that can be developed between father and son so that son can gain the value of having a father who's not absent from his life, regardless almost to whether he's absent with his mother's life? Now, what that means is mother and father have to have a healthy relationship between themselves, where the son is the focal point, regardless to the differences that may be existing between them, because neither of them wants their child to grow up with a wounded masculinity and an unhealthy dependency on women's approval. And that changes the whole concept, because what that means is, well, we divorced and therefore I don't have any responsibility. We never got married and I don't have any responsibility. That flips the whole thing to, regardless to the relationship with my son's mother that I have another relationship and another responsibility in my relationship with my son if I'm a real man.
And you just said something there, George. I hope our listeners didn't miss it. It is imperative that, if possible, that you do everything you can. Men, I'm going to say this again. Listen to me. It is imperative and important that you do everything you can to be involved and active in your children's life. See, there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of different dynamics that takes place when you have an overmothered and an underfathered situation. You really have some unhealthy things developing with both males and females. a female, for example, that's overmothered and underfathered, she doesn't have a male. When she's underfathered, she has no male to model for her how a woman is supposed to be treated, how a woman is supposed to be talked to. She doesn't have a model. And so when you don't have a model, you go searching for a model. Or sometimes when you don't have a model, in your search for a model, you end up finding, attaching, and adopting a faulty model. So you have this underfathered situation where young girls, females, are not seeing and having a model of how a man treats a woman and what that should look like, how a man engages in a woman, what that should sound like. At the same time, if you are dealing with a male or boy, you have a boy who has no model of what manhood looks like, no model of how a man treats a woman, how a man behavior. We have so many boys that are underfathered, and so what they're doing, instead of putting their foot in and trying on daddy shoes or boots, they're putting their feet in and trying on mama's heels and pumps. Something is wrong with that, and we've got to understand that when we make a decision as men to become what we've talked about in previous men-to-men episodes, elusive fathers that's on the run. Our children cannot find us. They're looking for us. They're longing for us. They desire to have a relationship, but we're elusive. We're on the run. You do damage to your children at a young age, and they take and carry all of that damage into their adult life. And so what you see when it's a female, she hasn't had a healthy male model. And as George said, you may not live in the same house with your daughter. You may not live in the same house with your son, but that is your seed. And you should man up to your obligation and responsibility to take care and be the best model and example you can and provider you can for your seed, because the damage is long-lasting, and what we are witnessing, experiencing, we're witnessing generational problems and issues from our families, our communities being overmothered and underfathered. So if Mary, if Betty has never seen a healthy model of how a man is supposed to treat a woman, how a woman is supposed to carry herself, she falls for, it's possible she can fall for any and everything. And sometimes we see females in relationships that are abusive, and you wonder, how did they get into that? Why are they into that? A lot of times, they were underfathered. They didn't have a father to model and teach them. No, this here is how a man is supposed to treat you and talk to you, baby. Love is not a knot on your head. That's not love. Love is not a black eye. When a boy doesn't have, I know, because I was underfathered and I went into adulthood with a wounded masculinity. And I can tell you, again, when you are underfathered and you don't have a model of what manhood is, you will seek out and find a model. I got my model from the basketball court. I got my model from the football team. I got my model from working at the port, from the longshoremen. I got my model of manhood from the military. And guess what definition they gave me? All of them gave me the same definition of manhood. Manhood, if you're a man, if you're a hard man, real man, it's about profit and pleasure. In other words, making money, having money, and how many women you can sleep with. And that's a faulty model. And I'm telling you that our community, being overmothered and underfathered, is not by coincidence. There has been intentionally and strategically measures put in place, executed, to separate the man from his woman and his children. And there are men who've been so wounded, and they're not even aware of it, during their childhood life, that they don't even value being there for their child because they haven't experienced. They don't see the importance. They don't see the value. Listen to me. Men, I'm going back to about 4 episodes. We have to begin to rewrite our life script. About 4 episodes back, you can go try to find that when we talked about, George and I, your life script. The script that we are living out, the script that many males are living out, it is a faulty script. But we've learned and we've had conversations in which we said, yes, the script that I'm currently living out is not a healthy script. It's not the right script. But we have the power and the ability to begin to rewrite our script. But you have to first confront the script and be honest about the script that you're living out now. If you are a father and you're not playing a role in your children's life, I challenge you, I exhort you, I beseech you to do what you can to rewrite that script. Because the damage that is done to them during their childhood, they will carry it into their adult life, and they will find themselves continually challenged to be and maintain healthy relationships. The reason why many people can't have a healthy relationship, and every 6 months they're in another relationship, every 9 months they're in another relationship, is because they've been so wounded during their childhood, their development, adolescent years, of mother, under father, that, and it's in their subconscious. They don't even realize why it is, what it is that keeps them from having and being able to maintain a healthy relationship. And I'm going to say this here, because I know there's some mothers viewing and women watching. What George said, I hope you didn't let it go over your head. There are times when the relationship does not work out with you and the child's father. You can't escape that reality and that truth. But if this father is not a threat, a danger, someone unsafe, irresponsible, please, out of your disappointment or your anger that your relationship with him did not work out or may have some tension in it, please do not do anything to block that father having a healthy relationship with his son or daughter. It's going to damage them, not only in their childhood, but it will damage them. It will be damage that they will carry on into their adulthood, and they can pass it on to their children. There's a multitude of reasons why we have overmothered and underfathered. Men, we have so many battles that we must fight as a male. I'm aware of that. We're in a game in which often it's obvious that the rules was not written for us to be successful and win. But we must have a resolve, a commitment, and determination that if you have a child, you will make a commitment to do everything within your powers to be a healthy, present role model for your child. We got millions of men who are living with wounded masculinities. We got millions of mothers. They're trying to use the magic wand. They're doing everything they can. But there's only so much a woman can do when it comes to teaching a boy how to be a boy, how to be a teenager, how to transition into manhood and embrace all the responsibility that comes with being an adult male. Many of our males are irresponsible and don't value commitment because they've been overmothered and underfathered. And so they didn't see father committed to the relationship, so commitment is not something that's high on their value chart. But we are not in the predicament that we're in as a community, as a society by accident. But we can rewrite the script. I want to read something else to you. If there is one phase I could use to describe the average boy growing up in this time, it would be overmothered and underfathered. Of course, even overmothered may be a stretch, as what it means to be a mother is lost of many women. As things change in society, one of the biggest impacts has been the loss of fathers. The biggest impact in our community, in the family structure, has been the loss of fathers. But as we always say, and as we've said, whatever script you're currently living, you can begin to live and write a new script. But you cannot defeat what you don't have the courage to confront. Listen, I hope you have some takeaways from this conversation. We shared a lot, talked about a lot, but this is a serious issue that we're discussing tonight. Millions of males right now are overmothered and underfathered. And as a result, they are growing up with wounded, damaged masculinity. And they will carry that damaged and wounded masculinity into adult life. And it will cause them to consistently and repeatedly, unless they are awakened to the psychological and emotional damage that is happening in their life, and get help and begin to rewrite the script, we will raise another generation of males who do not know what the true meaning and definition is of manhood. It's not how many women you can sleep with. It's not how much money you can make. No. That's the world's definition. God's definition is for the man to be the provider, the protector, and the spiritual priest over his house. Listen, we thank you, as always, for spending this hour with us every Monday, first Monday of the month. Again, our objective is to have honest, unchaste dialogues about issues that are impacting men particularly, but quite often there's something that's shared that helps females also. I hope you were blessed. I hope you were challenged. I hope we gave you something to think about as you move forward in life in terms of how you respond, what you post about the mistakes of other people's lives. I hope you will reflect upon your own mistakes and ask yourself the question, how can I handle this situation more intelligently the next time? And I hope that there is some father that will watch this episode and decide it's time for me to rewrite my script. George, you have any final words?
No, Pastor, you were on a roll this evening. I won't add to it. I'll just ask the brothers to go deep, and become satisfied with the truth that you see that's within you, because it is there.
All right. We'll see you next month, same time, first Monday at 7 p.m. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Man to Man. My brothers, remember, God created you to be a champion. Don't settle for anything less. God bless you. We'll see you next month in another episode of Man to Man.